adapting to that stress. Your body is saying, do I get fatter or do I get thinner? And so for one person, it's going to confuse the stress as some sort of a famine, and to another person, it's going to confuse the stress as like running away from tigers. And so for one person, it's going to make them fatter, another person is going to make them thinner. It's because our body's adapting to stress. But the irony of it is that it's not adapting to anything, because it's not making us any safer one way or the other. It's just that we have these programs, and they're programmed to respond to certain chemistry in our body.
I got to tell you this wild story. A couple of years ago, I was at Gold's Gym. I was working out with a trainer 3 times a week. I'm not kidding, John. I was on the treadmill, I think it was 5 times a week for an hour. And I was on a very good eating program. Let's just say that, okay? At the end of 3 months, I lost 4 pounds. And I had gained more muscle, but I hadn't lost much fat. I was so upset, and I looked at the trainer, and the trainer said to me, "You're obviously doing something wrong. You're not aware of what you're eating." I said, "No, I am aware of what I'm eating."
Yeah.
And she said, "Well, I've never seen this in the history of my life." I felt so bad. I mean, 3 times a week lifting. I was on the treadmill 5 hours a week, keeping a food journal. I was drinking tons of water. I was taking anti-aging stuff. I was taking all the stuff and preoccupied with weighing. But I have heard this from other people. But one day, I was on a treadmill, and I was very bummed about what my trainer told me. And this guy came in, and he said to me, "Let me tell you something." He was another trainer. He goes, "Everybody that's telling you everything about what you're supposed to do, they don't know anything they're talking about. First of all, you have to eat to lose weight. You have to eat many times a day, and you want to turn your body into this machine, and it takes energy to eat. Did you know that?" I said, "No, I didn't know that." He goes, "Everything they're telling you is wrong." And I was in shock, and I looked at this guy, and I thought, well, he's lean, he's a trainer. How does he know? He's never been heavy, blah, blah, blah. But it made sense to me, but I didn't trust it until I read your book.
Well, let me tell you something. Don't feel bad, Kim, because I have talked to thousands of people that have said the exact same thing. They're working out like crazy, they're eating nothing, and they're not losing weight. And one thing you need to understand about working out the way you did is that when you work out that hard, you also elevate your cortisol levels.
Well, that's what I thought happened, actually.
Remember you said we all need a tiger to run away from?
Right.
When you do exercise, everybody looks at exercise as a calorie-burning tool because everybody's at the level of calories in, calories out. And calories in, calories out is a very short-term approach because the types of things that cause you to lose weight, the calories in, calories out type of things, are not the same things that get your body to want to be thin. And if you want to lose weight sustainably and keep it off without dieting, and without strain and stress and incorporate it into your life, you've got to learn how to shift your set point. That is, get your body to want to be thin. So, for example, with exercise, since you brought that up, rather than exercise an hour a day, 5 days a week, plus do weights 3 times a week, a couple of times a week, exercise. But when you're doing it, let's say you're riding a stationary bike, for example, just ride it nice and leisurely and warm up. But then, after about 10 minutes, for just 10 seconds, move as fast as you can and imagine that you're being chased by a predator. Your body doesn't know the difference between a real and imagined experience. You know, they've done studies with Olympic athletes where they visualize their ideal sport, or they visualize their sport, and all of their muscles and neurons are being flared and in the exact coordinated sequence as if they were actually doing the sport. So when you move as fast as you can, just for that 10 seconds, because the reality is, if you walk out going for a walk in the woods and a bear came out of nowhere and started chasing you, you wouldn't go for a 40-minute stroll.
Absolutely not.
No, you wouldn't go for a 40-minute cardio walk.
I would hope that an extraterrestrial craft would pick me up very quickly.
Yeah, well, that would be nice too. It would be nice if an extraterrestrial craft just appeared.
I would hope I would be beamed up. I wouldn't try to take it upon myself.
Yeah.
So the 10 seconds...
We're going to survive.
Yeah.
You would move for just 10 seconds as fast as you can. That is a stress that's going to shift your set point. So when you use exercise, don't use it as a calorie burning device per se. Use it as a tool to get your body to want to be thin. And so what you're doing is between the overtraining and the starving, you were providing stresses that were activating your fat programs, getting your body to want to hold on to weight, and you were at war with your body. So your metabolism was getting slower and slower, and it became more and more of an effort. And I have seen that with thousands and thousands of people.
Jon, what happened to that old saying from a training point of view? I'm a former tournament tennis player for 13 years in the younger part of my life. And now I think to myself, a lot of these trainers and a lot of the fitness world says, look, if you lift, you will increase your muscle mass, and then your muscle mass will burn fat at rest. And so it's this crazy thing out there. It's like, so is part of that true?
Yeah, it is, but the way you increase your muscle mass is through intensity, not through just long, slow duration. So it's always intensity that will increase your muscle mass, speed up your metabolism, but more importantly, will shift your set point. If you look at Olympic sprinters, if you the ones that sprint 100-yard dashes, I mean, all they got to do is run for 10 seconds at a time. These guys have less fat on their body than marathon runners. Not that marathon runners are fat by any stretch of the imagination, but if you think about it, marathon runners going to run 10 miles a day, every single day, just for starters. And they still have a layer of fat, a small layer of fat that sprinters don't have. Sprinters look like anatomy lessons. And that's because they're providing the intensity that's shifting their set points. So when you do exercise, you want to look at it as a way to shift your set point. In fact, at every level, when you're looking at weight, you want to ask yourself, how is this affecting my set point? The stresses in your life, how is it affecting my set point? What you're eating or not eating, how is that affecting my set point?
That's a great question.
And when you understand that, it's a total paradigm shift. And then you see why dieting doesn't work, why overtraining doesn't work, why starving yourself doesn't work.
I was pretty shocked when this trainer said this to me. I looked at her and I just said, I'm telling you, I am doing everything I know to do, and it's not budging. And I'm an example because I've tried a lot of things myself. I have been on HCG, and I lost 35 pounds.
Yeah.
And went on a second round of HCG and gained every pound back. Everything back.
Let me explain why that is. Because again, when you're looking at the level of hormones, of just adding hormones, at hormone replacement, you're still not looking at the highest level of the way the body organizes itself. Because to me, hormones are a little bit like soldiers, but there's a higher level of command. There's a higher level of consciousness that's more like the general that can look at the whole picture. So when you increase the level of a hormone, like growth hormone, for example.
Well, I didn't take growth. HCG, not HGH. HCG is by injection, came from an English doctor that found out that when you inject HCG, which is really urine from a pregnant woman, into you, and you're on this 500 calorie a day thing, and then the body goes through this whole orchestration. Well, I read all about this and did it, was absolutely on it to the T, but the second round, everything came back violently. It was bizarre.
Yeah.
And I'm an example because I actually have tried these things.
Yeah, no, but my point is that anything you try to do, a lot of times, like there's talk that you can lose weight through increasing leptin levels, and what happens when you do that is that your body just becomes less and less sensitive to the hormone, to leptin, and so you always lose weight in the short term, but then your body adapts. So it doesn't really matter what the strategy is. When you try to do it chemically, your body's going to find a way to adapt until you address the real issues.
The part of the book that talked about visualization and visualizing your ideal body. Now, we know from the law of attraction, we know for years that people have used visualization, that there's a power and there's a manifestation capability that's pretty intense about it. But what if people cannot visualize their ideal body? Do they have to get a picture of a body that they relate to and then put their head on it?
Really, I created a visualization CD that comes with the book that you listen to as you're going to sleep at night, and that takes care of the fact that if you haven't had experience visualizing, and visualization is a little bit like a muscle, and that the more you exercise it, the stronger it gets. So you listen to the CD for a few months, and then you become much more powerful at visualizing. So it walks you through it.
That's great.
And it's specifically made for people that don't have that experience in visualizing.